Today on Facing Life Head On, abortion leaves many women emotionally devastated. I'd like to invite you to spend the next 30 minutes listening to three women share their very courageous stories about their personal experiences with abortion. Due to unexpected pregnancies, more than 1 out of every 4 babies conceived is killed by abortion. Their mothers commonly experience post-abortion stress. We met 4 of these women: Kathy, a Kentucky mom of 2, Shari, an ultrasound technician, Kelly, who at age 14 was taken to an abortion clinic 5 months into her pregnancy, and Georgette, who years after her abortion went on to be the director of Silent No More, a campaign raising awareness of the devastating effects of abortion. Each say they had no idea what they were in for after the abortion.
I had an abortion at age 18 when I was a senior in high school. My mother asked me if I could possibly be pregnant, and I said that might be a possibility. So we went to the family doctor, and he came out and told my mother and me that I was definitely pregnant. He also said that I was pretty far along and that we needed to hurry. He knew a place out of state where we could go, but we needed to go that weekend and do something as quickly as possible.
When I was 13, I got pregnant, and my period wasn't regular at that time, so I wasn't really aware that I was pregnant. I didn't know what those symptoms were. So by the time I did go to the doctor, she told me that I was 5 months pregnant, and I was 14 at that time. And in Maryland, where I lived, it was illegal to have an abortion because it was so late in the pregnancy. And so I was flown to Kansas.
I was 18 years old, found out I was pregnant. I wanted to finish school. I was selfish at that time, and I didn't know it was a baby. They told me there was nothing but a blob of tissue.
I had an abortion when I was 16 years old because I was the good girl of the family, and I didn't want to disappoint them. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed at the fact that they would know I was sexually active. And somebody told me about abortion, that I could have an abortion. I had no idea what an abortion was. It was in 1976, Detroit, Michigan, and I remember I called, I made an appointment, I drove down. As I drove down, I remember thinking, this feels wrong, but it's legal, so it's got to be okay.
What led to your decision to have an abortion?
I just didn't have the means to take care of a child, and the people in my life that were most important to me and that I looked up to and that taught me right and wrong were telling me that this was the only option.
My mother and I went home and discussed this situation, so I asked if I could give the baby up for adoption. She said no grandchild of hers would ever be given up for adoption. It was something that all the stigma associated with it was difficult, for her and for many folks at that time. Coupled with that, I didn't think I was ready to have a baby. Certainly, I had always looked at my mother's life working at minimum wage, and at that point she was a single parent trying to raise 2 children, and I didn't want to be like her. I wanted a different life, and I thought having a baby would probably trap me in the same type of life that she had.
There was no other option, there was nothing to consider. It was like that was going to solve my problem.
So no other opportunity or option was presented to you?
No, and I didn't look for any other option, to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't really think about it. I was 16 years old, and I was handling this all by myself.
It's a pretty big burden for a 16-year-old.
Well, and you know, it was really weird because I look back on it now and I remember thinking when I was 16 that I was very mature and I was very capable of handling anything and everything. And I was mature, but I was not capable. Nobody is capable of handling the decision to take another life, no matter how old they are.
Kelly, what went through your mind as you went to the abortion facility?
I just remember being scared, and the whole way there I was just, you know, depressed, tired, numb.
We crossed the state line into Tennessee, went to Nashville, and on a Saturday, and we went to the abortion clinic that my family doctor had referred us to. And I stood in line with many other girls. Each one of them would proceed on to the next step, but I was put off into another room. And eventually, the doctor came to me. I think it was after he'd gotten through the line of women and explained that I was too far along for the type of procedures that they had available at their clinic. So my mom asked for them to refer us somewhere else. So we proceeded on to another clinic. It was the same, she's too far along. So after the third clinic that we went to, I had breathed a sigh of relief because I thought, you know, I'm going to get out of it. I don't have to make the choice today. But the doctor told us there was one place that he knew of that might be willing to take us. And we got the address and on we went.
When we returned, the women tell what happened next.
It wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. And I just kept screaming that. And so he hung it closer in my face. And he said, "What did you think it was supposed to be?"
Our story this week is about 4 women who are now speaking out about the abortions they had years before. Kelly was just 14, 5 months into the pregnancy. She was flown to Kansas for a late-term abortion.
There was a process of 5 days. They stick these expandable things into your cervix so that they're slowly dilating you over the 5 days. They force you into labor. They give you these little pills that put you into labor, and they slowly go down the line of whoever's dilated enough, and then they put you in a wheelchair and wheel you off to another room where I sat on a toilet, and the nurse said, "Lean on me and push," and I did, and that's where I left my baby, was in a toilet.
He had a suction machine, a 50cc syringe, and 4 nurses to hold me down as he sucked the life out of me.
They put me on a table. I still wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't certain about fetal development. No one explained anything to me. I didn't receive any counseling, but I did have a lot of questions. I kept asking if it was a baby yet. And everyone, including my mom, kept assuring me that it wasn't a baby yet. They put a board with some needles into my stomach, and it made me so sick, just the sight of it, that I raised up off the table and I was going to leave. I told them I had changed my mind. But the nurse that was attending me pushed me back and said it was too late. That's about the last thing that I remember, because at that point they also injected me with something, and I think I must have been anesthetized.
They put you in a state of what they call twilight consciousness. So, you know, you have an IV that's making it so that, you know, you're groggy, but you still can move and respond to directions.
When I woke up, no one was in my room, and I was having terrible pains, violent pains, and the next thing I knew was that something had happened. I didn't really know what had happened. I think possibly because, you know, you're drugged. But I knew something had happened. And I started ringing the nurse's bell. Someone did come, and it was an intern. And he came into the room and he reached below me and held something up in front of my face. And I started screaming. It wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. It wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. And I just kept screaming that. And so he hung it closer in my face. And he said, "What did you think it was supposed to be?" And then he took something and cut the cord. And the baby dropped into a trash can right beside my hospital bed. Well, at that point, I was really screaming over and over and over again that it wasn't supposed to be a baby yet. And then someone came into my room. It was a woman, a nurse, who once again injected me in my side with a needle, and I went off to sleep again. When I woke up, my mom was back at my side, and I said, "Mom, where's the baby?" And she said, "There is no baby, Kathy. We got it in time. There's no baby." I said, "Mom, there is a baby. I want to see the baby." And at that point, I wanted the baby back. Don't know why I wanted the baby back, but I wanted my baby back. That day, my heart was destroyed, and I was never the same.
And after you delivered the baby, they just ushered you out of that room?
Out of that room into another room where they put me on a metal table so that the doctor could then come in and remove the afterbirth.
And then what happened after that?
The nurse told me that I looked very skinny and that I should be happy about that. And then I was put back in, a hospital bed for a short time and then sent on my way, and that was the end of it. There wasn't effective counseling on how to deal with it once we left that clinic or where to receive help or anything like that.
Up next, the women open up about how their abortions impacted them.
And that was the moment that the truth finally hit me. I didn't just have an abortion. I aborted a child. I aborted my child.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
Abortion is often described as an easy fix, but there's a growing number of women who say abortion left them with more problems than it solved.
I had an abortion and, went through the procedure on a Saturday and then went on to my sister's house and spent the night so I didn't have to tell my mom or go home distraught. And woke up the next morning and was crying and couldn't stop crying, and I thought, how do I go home and pretend everything's okay? And basically I decided to pretend that Saturday, October 4th, never happened.
I suffered from severe complications of bleeding, infection.
I became Miss Goody Two-Shoes for about 6 months and just was trying to be the perfect student, the perfect daughter, not be, a wild and crazy girl. and I couldn't maintain that, and so then I went off on the deep end. I drank a lot. I smoked a lot of pot. I was looking for ways to get out of my own experience, to have a good time, and I was pursuing trying to be really busy and really happy and cool. And I figured if I did all those things, you know, nothing would catch up with me.
But it did.
It did.
When did you realize that the abortion may not have been the best decision for you?
Well, immediately. I mean, I was giving off milk, but I didn't have a baby, and I took that to mean that, you know, I should have a child. My body thinks that I should be a mother, but I don't. And so I was very depressed. I mean, I didn't get out of bed for a long time after the abortion, and I suffered from depression a lot after that. And, you know, sometimes I would be aware that it was because I didn't have a child, and every time I would look at a pregnant woman or a mother with her children, that would, you know, feel like a huge empty part of my life. So sometimes it would be, you know, that I would know that I was hurting because of that, and other times I wouldn't really be sure why I was hurting or numb or, you know, depressed or suicidal.
I wanted to die. I didn't really want to kill myself,